Alrighty, hi guys, welcome to the webinar. We are so excited to have you guys with us today. I am Riley, I'm your host today. And before I hand things over to Nathan to talk about Facebook advertising, I am going to go through a few housekeeping things. So first and foremost, we always get this question every time, and I just want you to know we are recording. So you will get the recording, the slides from this webinar, and any important links we share with you today. You'll get that all packaged up in an email following our session today. So if you want to pass that over to a colleague or go over it again, you can do that. And at the end of the session here, we'll take some time for Q&A. So throughout the session today, you can go ahead and drop any questions you may have in the specific Q&A tool in your Zoom toolbar. It'll be at the bottom of your screen there. Not to be confused with the chat box, okay? So use that Q&A toolbar just to drop any questions you may have, and we will get to them at the end of the session. And one more thing before we get started. So I wanted to talk to you guys about something super important. It's NEO Summit. It's the Nonprofit Innovation and Optimization Summit. We're hosting it in Austin, Texas this year. We are super excited. It's 2 full days of awesome speakers, all you guys, and some really great key tips and data-driven strategies that you can take away. So you can get a little peek here at some of our awesome speakers that we're going to have. We go to the best for-profit conferences, and we find speakers there so that you guys can get some really cool tips that you might not be hearing at other nonprofit conferences. So you can get a little sneak peek at our lineup on our website at neosummit.com. And you can learn all about NEO Summit at that website there. So if you guys are interested in getting tickets to NEO Summit, we would love to have you. And from now until next Friday, you can get $400 off tickets to NEO using the code Lollipop. So if you guys want to join us, we'd love to have you in Austin in September. And without further ado, I'm going to hand things on over to Nathan today, who is going to be talking about Facebook advertising. So Nathan, you want to take it away?
Thanks so much, Riley. It is great to be here with all of you today. I'm so excited to talk about Facebook, and maybe with a little bit different spin than we often do. I've got to talk about the mystical secret to turning free content into valuable donors. And today we're going to focus a little bit more on the advertising side of it and how to get the most out of your ads. I dropped in the chat that I am actually coming to you today, not from Plano, Texas, where we're based, but actually from my parents' basement in central Illinois, in Morton, Illinois. I saw someone is in attendance from the Southside Mission in Peoria, Illinois, so not too far from you. It's just exciting to see all the different causes represented today in this webinar because, someone grew up in Morton. That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, it's just so exciting to see all the different causes represented today on this webinar because we're all kind of rallying around the same idea, which is how do we use new and innovative solutions and tactics and strategies to grow our revenue online, and specifically today, Facebook. We're all focused on trying to grow generosity so we can grow the impact of our causes, and hopefully you'll have a few good takeaways today that can help you grow your online revenue. And where I want to start is just to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're talking about. I believe the name of this webinar on the registration page basically just said, get more donations from Facebook or something like that. And there are a lot of ways that you can try and raise more money on Facebook, but not all are the same. There's totally different approaches. And today we're talking specifically about advertising, but let's first talk about a couple of the different ways you could raise money on Facebook and maybe some of the challenges. Number one is very simply, you as a nonprofit have an opportunity to have a little donate button on your page. So clearly this is the American Heart Association Facebook page. You can click that donate button right there, and a Facebook user right away can give a gift, make a donation to American Heart Association and support this cause that they care about. There's likely a reason they're following them on Facebook or visiting their page. Maybe they've volunteered or they've been impacted by American Heart, and so they want to give back in some way. So there's value in having the donate button on your Facebook page. So this is great. This is probably something you should have. However, it's really hard to scale your fundraising around the Facebook donate button. So this is not really what we're talking about today. So you should probably have it, but it's not really our focus today with these strategies. Another way you can raise money on Facebook, which you've probably participated in this, at least you've seen this on Facebook if you've ever been on Facebook in the past couple of years, is these fundraising campaigns. So someone like myself can just log into my Facebook account and I can start a fundraiser campaign for a variety of different organizations. So in this case, the screenshot, Chris is running a fundraiser for St. Jude. And I don't know if this is a made up one. Maybe this was kind of tweaked or something, but it says he raised $1 million with a goal of $5,000 on only 32 donations. So that's kind of amazing. Most people aren't going to see this type of result, but congratulations to St. Jude and Chris, because that's amazing. So this is something that you can do and that your followers could do, is raise money for you on Facebook through some type of fundraiser, whether it's, like a birthday fundraiser, it's their birthday, I want to raise money for this cause, or otherwise, this is an option. Someone can give you money this way, as largely a peer-to-peer strategy. However, again, it's really hard to scale this type of thing. There's value in it for sure, but it's really hard to scale these fundraisers and grow your peer-to-peer giving on Facebook. And specifically today, we're going to talk about advertising as a strategy, but we're not talking about Facebook fundraisers. And some of the difficulties of these two different options, the donate button and the Facebook fundraisers, is that all of the donations and the donors that come in through these types of campaigns, all their information kind of goes into a black hole. So like Facebook has the information, but they can't really share it with you, or they're choosing not to share it with you, which makes it incredibly difficult for us as fundraisers to, really cultivate and develop relationships with donors that we know they gave money, but we don't know who they are. How do you develop a relationship that way? It becomes very difficult. And again, it's really hard to scale. Now, this kind of third option is organic posts. And likely, if you have a Facebook page, you're posting fairly often, trying to engage your followers and keep them, in touch with different things going on at your organization. And so this is an example from Alzheimer's Association. This is an organic post from their page. But it's really difficult to use organic posts to scale your fundraising. There's a few stats I have for you as to why. Number one, this study from Rival IQ, what they found is the median engagement rate on an organic Facebook post is 0.08%, which means a very, very, very small amount of the people that actually, that theoretically your post would reach, people who are following you, only about 0.08% might have a meaningful engagement with your post. And an engagement could be a like or a love, or what all the other different reactions you can have on Facebook now, or a comment or a share. It doesn't actually mean like 0.08% are donating. It's just, they're clicking on your post and maybe liking it or commenting on it. On top of that, if you even lower the bar of engagement to just, does someone see your organic post, period, let alone interact with it, according to Hootsuite, only 5.2% of your followers are going to see any given post that you post organically on your page. So the combination of those two things, it's really, really hard to reach even the people that actively follow you on Facebook. It's really difficult. And so if you can only reach that many people, or that few people, with your organic posts, then it becomes really hard to grow and scale your fundraising just using organic social media. So there's certainly value here. You certainly should be posting organically on your Facebook page and engaging your followers. However, this is not our primary focus today in trying to figure out how do we scale and grow and get more from fundraising on Facebook. Specifically, we are talking about advertising. And so right here, this is kind of like a template of kind of a good starting place for a Facebook ad. And we're going to break this down. We're going to look at the different components, but this is really the critical piece for now, is this is advertising. This is an organic post. This isn't people sharing your posts. These are sponsored posts, and not a boosted post. That's something different. If you're familiar with boosted posts, it's not a boosted post. This is a Facebook ad. So you're using Facebook Ads Manager to create and run advertising to try and acquire new donors on Facebook. So if this is what you're thinking already, then you've nailed it. We're talking about Facebook advertising. But if all these other, methods of raising money on Facebook are particularly challenging and difficult, well, the next logical question is, well, why is Facebook advertising any different, and why is it any better? And I think just to look at it from a high level, we can listen to the words of Mark Zuckerberg himself. So a couple of years ago, when he and the CEO of Twitter and Google were all kind of being interviewed by Congress, and they were asking him about privacy laws and all that type of stuff, this senator asked, hey, well, how do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service? And very simply, he kind of smirked. You can see him in the picture. Senator, We run ads. And that's it. So he openly told the entire world, and not that we didn't know this before, but openly told the entire world that their primary customer is people that are buying advertising. It's not necessarily the individual like you or me who's signing up for a Facebook account to connect with friends or family or join a Facebook group or whatever. Their primary customer, their primary business model is that they run advertising. So why do Facebook ads work? It's because they need to work in order to sustain the Facebook business model. So Mark Zuckerberg has a vested interest in your Facebook ads actually delivering results for you. Now, how this actually functions is that his all-seeing eye, called the Facebook Pixel, will follow you around the entire internet and follow Facebook users around the entire internet to try to have a holistic understanding of your interests and your behaviors. So they have what's called the Facebook Pixel. If you're not familiar with that, it's a little tracking snippet that you can install on your site, and most anyone running advertising has installed on their websites, that passes some information back to Facebook about Facebook users when they visit your website. This includes, are they coming to your website? Just basic visitor information. What types of pages are they viewing on your site and on other websites? Are they taking meaningful interactions? So you can pass information back to it, like, are they downloading ebooks? Are they signing up for newsletters? Are they becoming donors? Are they purchasing a product on your site or on Amazon or whatever the site is? The Facebook Pixel, again, is tracking Facebook users around the internet to try to develop this holistic understanding of how they typically engage online, and then using that to sort of predict their likelihood of future behaviors to serve that information to you as an advertiser so that you can run effective advertising. The good news for you, even though maybe some of this is scary from a privacy perspective, the good news for you is this allows you to reach a whole lot more people than you can simply with the donate button on your Facebook page, or simply with a Facebook fundraiser, or simply with just posting organically to your followers. Because through advertising, you can target your known audiences, number one. So you can actually upload lists of who are your active donors, or who is lapsed, or maybe someone who has given offline through direct mail or more traditional means, but has never given online. But you might want to target them with your Facebook advertising to cultivate or try to capture an email address or something like that. So you have all of your known audiences that you can actually upload to Facebook. We'll talk more about this a little later on. You can upload to Facebook and they'll find a match, and then you can actually run advertising targeting those people. And then you can also layer that with Facebook Pixel activity. So again, using Mark Zuckerberg's all-seeing eye called the Facebook Pixel to try and send your advertising and target your advertising at people who have been to your website and then maybe left without donating, or maybe maybe they're buying something on your site and they became close to purchasing but chose not to, or they came close to donating, they actually started filling out the form and they left without completing. You can actually retarget those people. Maybe you just want to target people who have been to your site, period, and maybe engage with an article or a blog post or some form of content, and now put a donation offer in front of them in some way, shape, or form. You can use the Pixel, Facebook Pixel activity, to create these audiences that are broader than just your Facebook followers. And then on top of that, the sort of third tier is that Facebook can actually take all of this information of your known audiences as well as your pixel activity and create what's called a lookalike audience. And essentially what this is basically saying, hey, Facebook, go show my ads to the 1% of Facebook users that look and are interested in the same things and behave most like my current donors, or a specific audience set that you want to create a lookalike audience for. So what that means is you can actually start to reach millions of people with your advertising that have a high likelihood of becoming your donors. So that's the beauty of the Facebook Pixel and lookalike audiences. This can help you reach new audiences that maybe you haven't reached before. But how do you actually make this work beyond just the tracking and the technology and the platform? Tools are of some value because tools help us implement strategies. But a tool is only as valuable as the strategy that you're actually implementing. So just running Facebook advertising or having access to this information doesn't actually lead to more donations. So what is the strategy that ultimately gets you success? We're going to look at this briefly. But I want you to know, before we look at this model, where it's actually come from. So if you've never interacted with us at Next After before, maybe this is your first webinar with us, or if you have in the past, just a quick refresher, everything that we do here at Next After is based on research. And it's our mission to decode what works in fundraising and make it as accessible to you and to fundraisers and to nonprofits and organizations, as many as we possibly can. That's our mission and that's our heart. But everything comes back to research, which we conduct really two types of research. Type 1, we call forensic research, where we're going to go out in the marketplace and maybe we'll donate to 200 organizations and track the whole giving experience to understand, what are people doing on their donation pages. Or more recently, we just sent out, I believe it was last week, a brand new research study on donation page friction, where we conducted this pretty in-depth survey of about 200 organizations looking at specifically elements of friction in the giving experience. And we tried to document that and show what are the most common elements of friction that stand in the way of giving. So that's one side of our research. And the other side is that we actually take these strategies that we see people using, we can test them. We can A/B test them to see what actually works. And so everything that you'll hear today is based on A/B tests and real campaigns that we've run with real nonprofits and proven over years of testing and research can actually work to grow giving. So we turn this research into resources like ebooks and webinars like this one, as well as in-depth training courses and our NEO Summit that Riley mentioned at the beginning. So that said, let's jump into this model. This is probably the most common, fundraising model that you've probably already tried. And I've run these types of campaigns in the past myself, because if you're trying to figure out how do we raise more money, we think there's opportunity on Facebook. Let's run some ads. Let's see what's up if we can actually, raise significant revenue from Facebook advertising. Your campaign probably starts out looking something like this, where you have an ad. Maybe you're telling a compelling story through your ad. You've got a nice video of someone who's been impacted by your organization or needs help, who's maybe part of the cause you're trying to serve. So you're telling a compelling story and you're leading someone after they click to a donation page where they can give. This is probably the most common model of trying to raise money on Facebook. But the common experience, I'm not going to say it's 100% of the time, but the common experience is that you run this sort of campaign, an ad straight to donation page, and you end up with a whopping 0 donations. $0 in donations. This is the most common experience. And what's probably worse is if you get 1 or 2 donations, maybe you get like $100 in donations, and you're like, okay, maybe it's going to pick up steam, and you run your ads for like another week and then another week, and you start spending more and more money, but you don't actually see more return. And maybe you see 1 more donation come through, but is it really worth it? And so this is the common experience for a very select few. Maybe there's a couple of you on this webinar today who are saying, actually, no, we do this all the time. We raise a bunch of money. Like, that's amazing for you. And congratulations. 99% of fundraisers are not going to see that same result. And we need a different model. And this is the model that we've tested into over several years of running these types of campaigns, what I call the free content to valuable donor model. And it has a few key ingredients. Number one, you need some sort of traffic, which in this case today, we're talking about Facebook advertising as our traffic source. So you need an advertisement that's going to drive traffic that leads to a landing page. So this is now a page on your website where someone can read about a free offer, and I call it free email offer. So someone reads on the page what the offer is. They have to give you their email address in exchange for the offer. Most commonly, this is something like an ebook. It could be like a survey, it could be a quiz, it could be an online course or a video series, but something you have to give your email address in order to receive. And then that offer is sent via email to the recipient. And instead of going to just like a traditional confirmation page that just says, hey, thanks for signing up for this ebook, would you share this on Facebook so more people can see it? You actually move to what's called an instant donation page, which is still a confirmation page that says thank you, but then it immediately moves into a donation appeal and walks through why you should actually give with reasons based on the interest they've expressed. So it's related back to the free offer they've just received, but you're moving someone towards giving a donation right away with a donation form on the page. If this doesn't make sense, let's actually visualize it and look at a real campaign that's actually really running right now. So this is from the Hoover Institution. They are advertising an ebook called Trickle Down Theory and Tax Cuts for the Rich, all about trickle down economics and trying to understand, does it work? Does it not work? What are the pros? What are the cons? They're kind of like a policy think tank. And so this is the ebook that they're advertising, and they're running these on Facebook. This is the ad. And this leads to a landing page where you can read more about the book. And then there's a form. You have to fill out the form, give your email address in order to get the ebook. And once you hit that button that says, get your free copy now, bam, I want it. And it sends you an email with a link to the book. And then on the confirmation page, it doesn't just say, thanks, share this on social media. It actually says, thank you, friend, and then walks through a donation appeal in depth with a significant amount of copy explaining why you should give in order to reach more people with this valuable information. And then it has a donation form right on the page. And so when we compare these two different models, you have the add straight to donation page model versus this add to landing page with a free offer to an instant donation page. It's got more steps. However, what we often see when we test these side by side is that using this like free content step, the landing page to an instant donation page, leads to an infinite percent increase in donations, which sounds ridiculous. But in reality, if you get 0 donations from version A and you get some donations from version B, that's a win. And in many cases, in some of the best of cases, we actually see people organizations making enough money back on their instant donations to cover all of their advertising costs. Plus, you can then get the downstream impact of the amount of people coming on your email file, engaging with you in a meaningful way that become donors then over time. So it can be a really effective strategy. Today, specifically, we don't have time to go through every single component and every single aspect of this model. We could literally spend, and we have spent all day talking about the model itself and how to create an email offer. How do you create a compelling ebook that someone wants to give their email address for? How do you optimize a landing page and craft an instant donation page? What metrics should you be looking at in this process to optimize your performance? And then other traffic strategies outside of Facebook. What else can you use to drive traffic? There is so much we could talk about, but again, we don't have time in our like 45 minutes to an hour today. So today, we're going to go with the rest of this session is to look at advertising specifically and 12 different strategies that you can use to improve your Facebook ads and lead to more people signing up for your email list and more people giving to you right away via an instant donation page. And I want to break this down into 4 simple categories to kind of guide us through the rest of our time. Number 1 is messaging and copy. So what do you actually say in your ad? What are the words that you should use? How do you craft that most effectively? Number 2, images, videos, your creative. What do you actually do with this place in your ad? Should you use videos? Should you use images? Should you use both? Some combination? How should they be shot and framed? We're going to look at a couple ideas there. Third, we're going to look at the headline and how to use it, how to use it effectively. And then fourth, we'll look at a couple different details around targeting and optimizing your ads. So are you ready to go? Should we jump in? We can jump into messaging and copy. I see Amber says, yeah, ready to go. She's ready to go. So let's dive in. Proven strategy number 1 related to messaging and copy. Short copy often leads to more clicks, but long copy often leads to more conversions. Now, typically, if you go on Facebook right now, if you pull up your phone, you're looking at the app and you start scrolling through, likely most of the posts that you're going to see and most of the ads you're going to see have pretty short copy, maybe a couple of lines of copy. And what we find, not just on Facebook, but really just in general, is that short copy without a lot of information tends to lead to more people clicking. However, I don't necessarily care in this type of a campaign about how many people are clicking my ad. It's of some value to know that, but ultimately I care way less about how many people are clicking and way more about how many people are actually like signing up for my email list or downloading this ebook and then actually giving donations. If ultimately my goal is to grow my donor file through my Facebook advertising, I care way more about getting donations than I do about getting clicks. And again, what we found is that longer copy tends to lead to more conversions that you actually care about. Let's look at an experiment. This is version A. To gain a deeper understanding of heaven this week, my daily devotions focus on this important topic. Sign up to start getting these free devotions delivered to your inbox today. 2.5 lines of copy. Seems like enough to explain. You kind of know what they're talking about and what you're signing up for if this is of interest to you. But then they had an idea, like what if we actually more than doubled the length, almost tripled the length of this copy to explain more of the value and more of the impact and more of the reasons why this would be important to the ideal donor and the ideal follower for this organization. So you see they've gone from like 2.5 lines of copy to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines of copy. Are you ready for the result? Does anyone want to guess the result? Here we go. 316% increase in emails acquired. All they did was write a little bit more copy. The landing page stayed exactly the same. However, writing more copy in the ad gave people a better understanding of the importance and the value of the offer, which led to higher motivation of the people actually coming to the landing page, which led to a 316% increase in people actually signing up. Lori asked a great question. How do you increase the copy length? Mine always gets cut off and is replaced with, quote, more. We're going to look at that in just a second. So this is strategy number one. Just write a little bit more copy. Don't settle for just a couple lines. Actually unpack in a little bit more length the impact and the value of the offer, because it might be the key to unlocking some more people signing up for your list and then ultimately donating to you. That's strategy number one. Proven strategy number two. Focus the copy that you're writing on the value to the reader, on the value to the person actually scrolling through their newsfeed. Don't use language that's focused on you, the organization. You want to avoid an overuse of words like we and mine and our organization. You want to avoid some of those terms. You want to focus your language, more on you and the impact on you, the reader, you, the potential donor. In this case, in this version of this ad, I highlighted a couple sections for you, but it says, we understand, we've been in your shoes. That's why we made this offer, and that's why we made this video series. A lot of the language, while the offer itself and the video series is obviously focused on the end user, the language talks about like, we think it's cool, we think it's great, we think it's going to be helpful for you, as opposed to this is what it can do for you. Version B adds a little bit more copy. It takes a little bit different of a spin with the copy by focusing these we words around you, the recipient. In this free video series, you will find 5 video lessons. You will sign up. You will get this. You will get a series that you care for too. You feel the difference there? It's not, you don't even have to like rewrite your copy entirely. Oftentimes you can just hit Command F and you can search for we and see how many times are you using the word we versus how many times am I using the word you. And just flip some of those we's to you, and you'll notice when you read it back and you read it aloud, the change and the difference in feeling and tone when you focus the words on you, the recipient, instead of we, the organization. And what this led to in this case was a 48% increase, not in clicks, 48% increase in conversions. So people actually taking advantage of this free video series and signing up. On top of that, this 48% increase in people signing up for the video series led to a 172% increase in people actually giving a gift on the instant donation page. So change that copy to be focused on you, the recipient, not we, the organization, and we, the fundraisers. Hopefully that makes sense. That's number two. Proven strategy number three. You want to make your call to action abundantly clear, even in the copy. Typically, we use the headline section below as like the primary call to action. You see that in this ad. It says sign the parenting pledge down there below the image. But even in the copy up top, you want to make your call to action abundantly clear. So in this copy, it says, renew your commitment. Let's boldly proclaim what we wholeheartedly believe. That's pretty much the extent of the call to action in the copy up top. However, if I were to ask you right now, how would you renew your commitment to live by your beliefs? How would you boldly proclaim what you truly believe? Like, there's probably a million different ways that you could start to do that. Maybe I would be clicking to read a blog post. Maybe I'd be taking a survey. Maybe I'd be taking a quiz. Maybe I'd be looking at a course. There could be a million different things that come next. I don't really know. It's not clear. But in version B, they added basically a paragraph of copy to clarify what the actual call to action is. That's why it says, that's why we want to invite you to sign the pledge and then finally add your name today. So yes, if I want to renew my commitment to live by my beliefs and these beliefs, how do I do that? I have to actually sign the pledge. What's the specific action I need to take? I need to sign the pledge and add my name today. And by adding an abundance of clarity about the call to action in the copy, it led to a 31% increase in people actually taking and completing this pledge. You see the difference there. Just add a little more copy, clarify the call to action. Number 4, and this is, Lori, this is your answer to your question. Proven strategy number 4. I want you to write so much copy in your Facebook ad that people have to click that see more link. That's okay. And here's why. In version A, this is actually the follow-up to that first experiment we looked at. That first experiment had a couple lines of copy, and then they went from 2.5 to like 7 lines of copy. Now this initial ad has like 7 lines of copy, and in version B, they wrote so much copy that you actually had to take your cursor and you had to click the little see more link that comes up because you wrote too much copy, and then it has to expand it in the news feed, and now you've got like 3 more paragraphs of copy. But here's what's happening in the mind of someone that's on Facebook looking at your ad. they've already read enough and were engaged enough by that first paragraph of copy that they actually were interested enough to click and read more and click see more. So just by clicking that see more link, they're almost expressing this desire to get more information, and they're building momentum through this process. They're interested, you've got them hooked, they click the button or the link, and now it expands, and now they're reading more and more of the story and more of the copy and more of the reasons why they should take advantage of this offer that you've put in front of them. And ultimately, this led to an additional 22% increase in people signing up for, I believe this is a free course. Yes, activate your free online course instantly. 22% increase in people signing up because they wrote so much copy that someone had to click the see more link. And again, what's happening here is that you might get fewer clicks on your ad if you have this much copy, but the people that do click are going to have that much higher of a motivation because they've been exposed to all these reasons why it's going to be valuable for them. And so when they say yes, they mean heck yes, and they get to the landing page and they're that much more likely to convert. So do not be afraid of writing long copy. I think at this point, every ad that we produce, whether for ourselves or for a nonprofit organization, you've got to click that see more link to read the whole thing. So we've seen this time and time and time and time again. So there's some quick tips related to your messaging and related to your copy in your Facebook advertising. Now, let's talk a little bit about the creative and your images. What do you do about images and video? And that's strategy number 5. Make sure that your ad imagery matches the design of your landing page. That sounds really simple, but it's also really easy to miss. I see a question here from David. Is clicking to read more counted as an engagement or a click according to Facebook? They always keep changing the metrics and how they actually count it. I think if there's like an engagement metric that would roll up into, I think there's actually a separate one that you could add to your chart to see how many people are clicking that link specifically. But then ultimately, if you're really trying to measure traffic, I would look at Google Analytics specifically to see how many people are actually coming to the page. That's probably a more important metric than just the click on the ad. Here's strategy number 5. In version A of this experiment, this ad is leading you to a landing page where you can sign up for a free course. It says start your free course now. However, the image that's being used is not actually on the landing page. This is a different image than the primary header image on the landing page. And if you squint or you lean into your computer here, if you look at the little laptop in the picture, that is actually the landing page that you end up on. When you click this ad, that's the landing page that you go to. So it's a different image. So what they did in version B was they said, well, what if we just used the image on the page as the ad? And so then this is what it looked like. So they took that header image and they made that the main image of the ad. And just by adding this level of congruency between the ad and the landing page, they saw a 48% increase in people actually signing up for this course, which then means you have that many more people that are being presented with the instant donation page. So this is really simple. Just make sure that your page and your ad match in terms of their look and feel and their imagery. And the reason being is that if I'm looking at version A of this ad, and then I go to the landing page and it looks totally different, I start to want, like, am I in the right place? Am I looking at the right thing? Because I just saw an ad, but this doesn't really look like anything that I just saw. And I only read a little bit of copy, so I don't really know exactly what I'm what I'm looking at. And now I feel a little bit confused. And that level of confusion creates friction and could lead someone to abandon. So if we just make it abundantly clear using the same imagery, it says, yes, you're in the right place, and it can lead to more people converting. So that's strategy number 5. Number 6, related to images and graphics and videos, I would encourage you to test, and I'm underlining the word test here specifically because this can go a lot of different directions in a lot of different ways. However, one thing that we're finding is that even if you just have a static image like this is just an image of an ebook. If you just add a little bit of motion to it, and so this video is not like an in-depth explanation of why this ebook is important. It's just a little 10-second video that adds a little bit of motion on the ebook, and that's all it is. And what it did was actually grabs people attention in the Facebook news feed. And by doing so, it led to a 36% increase in emails acquired because it got more people to stop and think and read and consider, is this of value to me? Which led to more people going to the page that were motivated to get the ebook. So add just a little bit of motion and maybe test it so you know exactly the impact that it has on your advertising. Strategy number 7. I want you to be careful with your images because way back when, Facebook would kind of let you do whatever. You could upload whatever images you want to with however much text, and like it was fine. And then at some point they said, well, we're actually going to stop showing your ads if you have more than 20% of your image covered in text. So they didn't want you to put a bunch of text because I think at that point they said like Facebook is I don't know, an emerging platform that is focused on visuals and stories, and we don't want so much text. And so they penalized you if you put too much copy on your ads. And now they've gone back the other direction to basically say you can kind of do whatever you want, but I think they sort of like limit how many people might see your ads if you have too much text. But basically, you can do whatever you want at this point. However, just because you can do whatever you want on your ads doesn't mean that you always should overlay them with text. So running this experiment, in this version, it said activate your free online parenting course that text overlaid on top of the image. In this version, it was just the image of this kid instead of the overlaid text. And the one with the text on top actually led to a 48% decrease in people signing up. So I'd encourage you to be careful. This isn't like the golden rule for every ad ever, but be careful of putting text and too much text on your ads because A, Facebook might penalize you in some way, and B, it might actually just come across as being inauthentic or some form of marketing. And typically when people can sniff and smell and see that like you're just trying to get me to take some sort of action or manipulate me in some way, they're going to choose to avoid that rather than lean in. So be careful of that text because it might be some sort of giveaway that like you're just trying to get me to do something. We want to be authentic with our ads. I see Lisa saying, LOL, it's an ad, which you're right. And you could say the same thing about the emails you send too, but consistently what we find in emails or ads or donation pages is that people humanize these things. And so if we lean into the relational side of it, we tend to see a greater response. People tend to delete and mark as spam the emails that look like marketing, but if they come from real people trying to build a real relationship, even though it's still fundraising and marketing, it's more authentic and people lean into that. Proven strategy. Ooh, Andrea has a question too. Not even the logo in the bottom corner. Yeah, you don't need the logo in the bottom corner because the logo is in the top left corner, right? Where it says Buckner International has your organization and your logo. So you don't necessarily need it on the ad. Proven strategy number 8. Use natural and authentic imagery, natural photography, instead of using images that look clearly like stock photos, or even if they're not stock photos specifically, if they look overly professional, again, this idea of like authenticity, if your photos look overly professional, people might not buy it. People might not actually lean in and feel like it's authentic and believable and human, which the nature of the Facebook platform is it should be, believable and human. You're connecting with other people. No one's on Facebook just to hear from advertisers. You're there to connect with humans. And so you expect an authentic interaction. So this is version A. It uses this photo of this kid, leaning back on this chair on the pillow. It looks super, super casual, super comfy, but also like really set up in a studio in a professional shot. Version B looks like you just pulled out your iPhone like this. You just snapped a quick pic and you uploaded it to Facebook. It looks a little bit more natural, a little bit more authentic, and it led to a 158% increase in clicks. And I know we've been talking about not trying to optimize for clicks, but trying to improve more meaningful metrics. Sometimes clicks is all you have to work with. And in this case, they saw a significant growth in clicks just by using more natural photography. The next proven strategy, we're now moving down the Facebook template into the headline and the call to action. Now, I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. We typically use this headline space as a call to action. If you were to just go grab a link from, honestly, any page on your website and you posted it organically on Facebook, what's going to come up in this headline section is really just the title of your page. So most commonly when you see someone sharing a link, you're going to see like the name of the article that they shared, the name of the blog they shared, and it's just a title. What we found is this is a great place to actually use a direct call to action because it tells someone exactly what the next step is that they need to take, or at least it should. And that's really proven strategy number 9. In this section, in this headline, you need to clearly ask the reader to take an action in your ad headline. Let's look at an experiment. In version A and in version B, both versions have the same exact copy. They have the same exact image. They go to the same exact place. However, the difference is that version A says learn more right here, and version B says start your survey. Now, if I see an ad that says learn more and I click on it, what do you expect is going to happen? You might not really know. There might be a whole variety of expectations of what's going to come next. Am I going to just read a post? Am I going to take a survey? Am I going to a donation page? You're trying to just get me to donate? Am I going to go sign up for a course? Am I going to go watch a video? I don't know. There could be 100 different ways that I could be learning more. I don't really know exactly what's next. You might see more clicks by saying learn more because there's just an element of curiosity. So I'm like, yeah, I'll check out what that is. And then when it doesn't meet my expectations, I'm going to go back. However, if you clarify your call to action and say something like start your survey, if that's your primary call to action, well, this is what they saw, a 312% increase in the people that actually completed the survey because they were clear about what happens next. I think one of the fatal flaws I'm including myself in this, but us as marketers and us as fundraisers, oftentimes is that we fail to be clear in our call to actions, and we try to get the most people to engage at a certain point in time without looking at the long-term impact of that engagement. So just because I get more clicks by saying learn more doesn't mean that it's a positive thing. If I want someone to take a survey, I should tell them start your survey and be clear about the call to action, because ultimately that sets the expectation for what comes next. And in this case, led to a more than significant percent growth in people completing the survey. Proven strategy number 10, clarify the offer in your headline. Don't clarify what the offer is going to lead to or the final outcome. This is a really interesting experiment to me because both version A and version B have the same copy. Everything is the same. The image is the same. The offer is the same. This is from National Breast Cancer Foundation. The offer is to get a free ebook. And again, after you download that ebook, you go to an instant donation page. That's the model. But the ebook is called 3 Steps to Early Detection. And so it's ways to do kind of a self-check to detect if you have breast cancer, or maybe the signs that you might have breast cancer. And so ultimately you might think, well, if the ultimate motivation for someone seeing this ad is to really detect, do they have breast cancer, then maybe we should make that the call to action. Detect breast cancer early. That's the ultimate outcome that you're looking for. So that was version A. But in version B, they wondered, instead of focusing on that ultimate outcome, what if we step back a little bit and thought more about what is the next step that we need someone to take, or that someone would have to take? And so instead of focusing on the broader, larger outcome, they focused in on the next step, which was just get your free guide. And by clarifying the offer and the next step, they actually saw a 45% increase in email acquisition instead of focusing on this ultimate outcome, because it might actually be too much of a stretch for someone who sees this ad to think, oh, if I click this, then I'm going to detect if I have breast cancer early or not. That might be too much of a stretch, but actually making it clear about what the next step is, this is believable. Okay, the next step is for me to get my guide. And you can draw the logical conclusions from there as to when I get my guide and how I use my guide. But ultimately, the next step is to get my free guide. And it led to this 45% increase in email acquisition. Finally, we're going to jump to targeting and optimization. There's certainly a lot of other ideas and things that we could test within the ad, but I want to give you 2 quick strategies around how to target and optimize your ads to get the most out of your performance. And feel free to keep dropping those questions in. I see a couple in the chat. Feel free to drop those in the Q&A tool, and we'll get to some of those at the very end here as well. So last 2 proven strategies. Number 11, you want to optimize your ads for donations. And if you've been in Facebook Ads Manager before, this terminology is probably more familiar to you. Optimize your ads actually for purchases. And I'll show you this in a moment. But you want to optimize your ads when you're choosing your conversion event that you're trying to tell Facebook, hey, go find more people that are going to purchase or actually make an online transaction, instead of trying to optimize for more people seeing your ads and more people clicking them, or even email acquisition. Ultimately, we want to tell Facebook to go find people that are most likely to give. So in this experiment, version A and version B are the exact same thing. Everything you see on your screen is the same. The organization is the same. The copy is the same. The image is the same. The link is the same. The headline is the same. The landing page you go to is the same exact process. However, the difference is that optimizing for purchases instead of optimizing for email conversion led to a 285% increase in donations. And again, what this is, you're basically saying you have lots of options when you set up your campaign. You can tell Facebook, go find me more people that are more likely to sign up for my email list. Or you can say, go find me more people that are more likely to make an online transaction and an online purchase. And in this case, telling them go find more people to make a purchase online led to a 285% increase in donations. So it's critical how we choose to optimize our ads. Now, if none of this makes sense to you because maybe you're newer to advertising, I see Lisa saying, wow, and this is how we felt too. We used to optimize more for email conversions for a long time. And then one day we ran this test and then bam, now everything gets optimized for purchases. It is pretty incredible. So hopefully you can utilize that. If this feels like it's over your head or maybe some of this terminology doesn't make sense to you, let's kind of zoom out for a second. Again, back to this model where you've got an advertisement leading to a landing page, leading to an instant donation page. Facebook can track every single one of these and understand what's going on in each one of these pages. Obviously, they know what's going on inside of the Facebook app and on their own platform. But if you install their Facebook tracking pixel on your website and on your landing page and on your donation page, you can actually pass that information back to Facebook. So it knows that, me, Nathan, if I'm on Facebook and then I click your ad, it's going to know that I went to your landing page. You can tell it whether or not I downloaded that ebook. You can tell it if I actually made it to the instant donation page. And so then Mark Zuckerberg knows if I actually gave a donation. And then Facebook can actually say, all right, we know what kinds of people actually make transactions. We're going to go find more of those people in your audience list to try to serve your ads to them more often. And that gives you the benefit of only reaching people that are most likely to take the action that you want. So what this looks like when you set it up, when you click create a new campaign in Facebook, you have these options. You can optimize for awareness. So say, hey, Facebook, go find more people to show my ad to. That's basically what this says. Optimize for more people seeing it. Or you can optimize for what they call consideration. There's a bunch of different options here, but essentially this is, how do I get more people to just click on my ad? How do I get more people to comment on it or engage with it by liking it or loving it? And there's obviously other options in here too. But then this is kind of where you want to be, this third option of conversion, because ultimately with this campaign, we don't necessarily care about how many people are clicking. We care about how many people are taking a meaningful interaction like a conversion. So we're going to check the conversion box. And then later on in the setup process, you basically get to choose, okay, what type of conversion? You said you want people to convert, but what does it mean to you? So you can set up a lot of different custom conversions. This is just a screenshot from our own ads manager. But then there's an option in here for purchase. That's what we've selected. And so you've optimized for purchases, then you're set up to basically say, hey, Facebook, go find me more people that are likely to make it to the very end and actually give me a donation. So that's proven strategy number 11. Proven strategy number 12, our final one, is to include a lookalike audience to reach more likely donors. We talked a little bit about this at the very beginning with some of the different audience options that you have through advertising. But this experiment is really interesting. This is from Alley Cat Allies is the organization. And in this experiment, they were basically testing some different audience types. And so in version A, they were targeting their ads to basically people who were fans of pages that are related to Alley Cat Allies. So you see on your screen, they're trying to go find people that follow the Alley Cat Rescue page and the Animal Rescue Foundation and Best Friends Animal Society and Friends of Animals, and then a bunch more after that. So they're trying to go, they're saying, Facebook, go show my ads to people that follow these pages. In version B, they took a little bit different approach where they were targeting based on interests. So Facebook knows all the things that you like and that you don't like and that you love and that you comment on, and they can start to categorize you sort of in the background into these different interest groups. And so this is an option for you as an advertiser. So they went through and they said, well, let's show my ads to people interested in cat food and people who identify as a cat lady and people who are cat lovers and people who are vet physicians. And then there's a few others in there as well. So this is interest-based targeting. And then version C was a lookalike list, which again, if you remember back, is basically saying, hey, take my donor list and go find the 1% of Facebook that looks most like my donors. And I don't mean like physically looks like your donors, but I mean interacts online and has shared interests to my donors. And so running this experiment, A, B versus C, they saw a 27% increase in donations using interest targeting, but a 335% increase using a donor look-alike list. This does not mean you should never target fans or you should never target based off interest, but it does mean you should definitely use a donor look-alike audience. Because again, it allows you to expand your reach. You're expanding your audience outside of your known audiences into millions of people that have a high likelihood to become a donor to you and to your organization. Now, again, because some of this gets a little bit more technical, I want to zoom out like the 30,000-foot view of like, what does this actually look like? What does it actually look like to use a lookalike audience? Essentially, it means this. You've got access to your donor list through your CRM or some other means, and you can export a list of who your current donors are. Technically, you could do current donors, you could do lapsed donors, you could do only recurring donors, and basically get a CSV file, and you upload this into Facebook. And what Facebook is going to do is not go store all this personal information that you just uploaded. They're going to hash all this data, and they're going to look in their accounts to see, can we make any matches? I'm going to look at your information over here and see, does it match my information over here? And if it does, bam, I'm going to generate this audience targeting list for you of your current donors that are on Facebook. And maybe you get 70% of them to match up or something like that, which would be great. And now you've got this group that you can target with your advertising. So you can retarget your existing donors. It's great. But it doesn't end there. So the next step is then you can say, hey, Facebook, take this audience list that we just created together, run it back through your machine and through your algorithm to see what's the 1% of Facebook that has the same types of interactions and interests and behaviors online as my current donors. And then what it's going to do is generate this much larger list for you of millions of Facebook users that look like your donors or behave like your donors, have shared interests to your donors. And then you can finally say, hey, Facebook, show my ads to this millions of people on Facebook that have a likelihood to become donors to me. And that's where this whole process starts. So what I want you to do from here is next time you're setting up a Facebook ad, or as you're getting into this, whether it's for the first time or the 100th time, you're just trying to test some new ideas, you can download this Facebook ad template, nextafter.com/Facebook ad template, and it's going to summarize all 12 of these different proven strategies that we've walked through today to make sure that as you're writing your copy or you're creating your creative, that you walk through some of these proven strategies. And I'll emphasize that this is not the end all be all of Facebook ads and Facebook ad templates. This is a better starting point because it's based on testing, it's based on research, it's based on data of what we've learned works. But you'll certainly find new things as you start running these advertising campaigns and you're testing new ideas. You're going to learn new things about your donors and your audiences on Facebook. And we'd love to learn what along with you. So feel free to share those learnings with us as well. Now, if you have questions, I've seen several coming in. I've also seen some gasps from Lisa at some of those big increases in donations. Feel free to drop those in the Q&A tool. And I do want to emphasize, just as you're doing that, as you're finalizing your questions for our Q&A time, I want to emphasize again what we didn't cover today, but we are going to cover in a workshop next Tuesday. It's a paid workshop, so it does have some cost to it, but we're going to go way deeper. And we're going to talk about the model that we looked at a little bit. We're going to go a little bit more in depth into how it works and why it works. We're going to talk about how do you create an email offer from your existing content that is going to align with the interests of your potential donors and hopefully lead them towards trusting you and then ultimately giving to you. We're going to look at how do you improve an email acquisition landing page. So how do you present your offer in a way where someone says, yes, I want to give you my email address. We're going to look at instant donation pages to show how do you write some of the copy and the appeal to lead towards someone giving to you. How do you measure it? What are the key metrics? How do you optimize performance? And then we'll look at some other strategies like how to use email in your existing donors, as well as some other ways of driving more traffic to your offer to ultimately lead to more new donors. So you can find out more about that, nextafter.com/workshop. Again, that's on July 27th. So it's next Tuesday. I'd love for you to join us. I'll be teaching that along with my friend and good colleague, Rebecca, my good friend, Becca Joe. And so you'll have, throughout the workshop, you'll learn more proven and tested principles. You'll have live instructors, so we'll have some time for live interaction and Q&A. You'll have virtual classmates, time for some breakout groups and discussion times and application, and then some time to even look at maybe real campaigns that you're running and get some feedback on those as well. So if you're not a member of the Next After Institute, the cost for you is $199. If you are a basic member, you get half off that, so it's just $99. If you're a standard member, it's included in your membership. So there's no extra charge to you, so there's no reason you shouldn't join unless maybe you're busy already. But you can find out more info at nextafter.com/workshop and get signed up that way. Now, I think we have some time for questions. Riley, do we have any questions to go through?
Not at all. We have almost 80 questions to go through, so
Oh
I don't know if
boy.
we're gonna get to every question today. But yeah, just appreciate you, Nathan, and appreciate all of you guys out there for sending in all these great questions. So hopefully we can tackle some of the more common ones today. And then if you guys have anything following the session today, just feel free to shoot us an email too, and we can help you out. But I kind of wanted to start off because I'm seeing a lot of stuff coming in about, just like the setup of Facebook ads, what kind of settings you use to optimize your performance and that sort of stuff. And I recently actually just finished a training done by John Loomer called Beyond the Boost. And I can send that link out to you guys. But I found that super valuable just in understanding the layout of like setting up Facebook advertising and that sort of stuff. And that does kind of answer that question of like, what's the difference between a Facebook ad and just boosting a post that I know a few of you are asking about. And the short answer to that is just that when you use the boost button, Facebook does all the work for you, and that's super great. But if you really want to dig in and target your ads the best way possible for your organization to get the best results, that's where actually setting up the Facebook ads yourself is going to be so valuable. Um, so, yeah, I'll share that with you guys. But, Nathan, if we want to dive into some of these here, let's do it.
Sure. Sure. Well, we'll just start at the top, I guess. I see a question that says, "Does paying for Facebook ads ever diminish non-boosted posts reach?" That's actually a really interesting question. My gut says no, and I don't think so, but I also don't have a definitive answer for you. So there's probably some more research out there. I would imagine. Um, but I guess even if the answer is yes, even if it does diminish those, you're also just harkening back to that initial data we looked at about from like Hootsuite. Like you're really only reaching a really small percentage of your followers anyway. So the value of an ad is that you can obviously reach more than just your followers, and it's guaranteed results to an extent. It's at least guaranteed impressions. So I wouldn't be afraid of running advertising that it's going to hurt my organic posts. I've never seen that, but again, I don't know specifically. But ultimately, the value you can get out of advertising is typically far greater than what you can get out of a single post. Granted, you pay for one and you don't pay for the other, so you've got to weigh that for yourself. Question. Go
This
ahead.
next one was actually a question that it seems like quite a few people were
Mm.
asking about. So maybe more in just general terms, Nathan. How does the donate button work, and like how do you get that set up for your organization? And if it is taking a while to get it set up, is there anything we can do to tackle that?
This is an area where I've not actually set one of these up myself. I've not set up a donate button. I've run a lot, a lot of ads, but I've not actually set up the donate button. So I'm not quite as familiar with that process. I do know that you can always jump in and create a Facebook support ticket to try to at least check on it and check on the case number, get a case number, follow up with your rep. If you don't hear from them, sometimes it can be notorious for taking a long time. Even some different advertisers we've worked with who are actively paying Facebook money to run advertising, sometimes you've just kind of got to babysit the customer rep, which maybe sounds bad, but sometimes it just takes a lot of follow up to get them to get your ticket completed. So I'd open a ticket with them and yeah, just keep following up. That's about the best I have for you, Deanna or Deanne. Question from Anonymous. I heard if you fundraise on Facebook, you don't get specific info about the person who donated. Is that true? It's why I haven't done it. That is true. You get some data back, but it's not really enough to sort of one-to-one isolate who is that person and then be able to follow up with them. There are some tools out there. I believe it's Give United has a pretty cool strategy and platform to help you stitch some of that data together. And I think using Messenger to follow up with people and actually like acquire an email address that way and cultivate them through other channels. So there are other ways around it, but they get pretty complicated. They can be fairly difficult. But yeah, that's why I advocate that if you're really trying to figure out how do I scale my fundraising on Facebook, typically just relying on people trying to get more people to donate through that Facebook donate button is not often the way to go. You might get people organically donating there, which is fine, but it's going to be really hard to scale up that way because you have no way to really cultivate those leads in an effective manner without some other complicated strategies. Question from Amber. Is this data also for Instagram as an acquisition channel? Yes. I think oftentimes we see some of the highest performing ads are the ones on Facebook specifically, but Ads Manager does allow you to run a bunch of different types of ads. They have a lot of different platforms in which your ads can run. So not just in the Facebook news feed, but also with some like different ad partners and display ad partners, as well as on Instagram, as well as like in Messenger and in the storefront and all those things. So they basically open up pretty much all their different advertising venues through the Facebook Ads Manager. Question from Tilly. How does Facebook advertising compare with advertising on other social media? Typically and historically, Facebook has been one of the easiest to get started with, as well as one of the highest converting, largely because Facebook has so much data compared to so many other social media accounts and social media platforms. Now, since the release of some of those iOS 14 privacy updates, it's gotten a little bit harder and maybe a little bit more expensive, but Facebook still far and away is one of the easiest to get started in terms of seeing instant results. And this is the primary channel that we've tested this type of a model in. So I would encourage you, you can use other advertising channels, even like the Google Ad Grant is a great place to get basically 10,000 bucks a month from Google to run Google Ads. You might not see the same types of conversion rates as you might in a targeted Facebook campaign, but that's money that's out there and available through Google to use their advertising platform as well, that you can kind of feed into this model as well. Question from Vicky. How will the ads work for a new startup nonprofit who needs to build an audience and raise seed money to get started? So this might be a bit of a tricky model for you as you're just starting up. Sometimes you might need to build an audience base. However, it can also be a great starting point to really test a bunch of different messaging. If you don't really know what types of messaging is really going to resonate with donors and really stick, this can be a great opportunity to target people that you think are most likely to be your donors, and maybe you'll set up 4 or 5 different offers or with different messaging and different creative to see what messaging really resonates with people related to our cause, to get people to sort of buy in, at least from the standpoint of becoming a subscriber, then hopefully donating as well. So it might cost you a little bit more money since it's newer and it's different and you're testing a lot. However, you can get a lot of valuable feedback that way. Question from Jeff, and it's 2:02, so thank you to those who have stuck around this far and this long. We're going to have probably like a hard stop around 2:10, but we're going to try to get through as many of these questions as we can. And we have a bunch of other resources we can send you as well to help you dive deeper. And again, we're going to have this workshop next week where we can dive deeper into some of these questions as well. And we will take some time in that workshop. It's about 6 hours long to dive into so many different components, and we'll have some more time for Q&A there also. But a question from Jeff. Can a Facebook ad ask a viewer to take action if they're experiencing a particular medical symptom? I tried to run a boosted post, was told it was not allowed if it required the viewer to self-identify anything, even that their legs hurt. Facebook does have a lot of different policies around that type of thing, self-disclosing, personal data and things like that. And then especially in like the political space, if you're in more of like an advocacy type of group, there can be some additional restrictions around what you can advertise as well. So I'm not exactly an expert in the the medical health type of field, so you can certainly run into that sort of thing. But around the targeting, typically there's not going to be targeting specifically for people whose legs hurt or people who have a certain condition, but you may be able to actually target followers of other types of organizations or groups that serve a particular medical need, and that might be a way to show your ads to someone without having them self-disclose, personal health information. So again, that would be going back to the like fans type of targeting. So again, if someone's following like a foundation that serves a particular illness or cause, you might be able to target those followers. So that could be kind of a way around it. Question from Liesel, who again was kind of a raving fan in the chat today. So thank you, Liesel, for your support and encouragement. For the life of me, I cannot come up with an ebook for us. I've been thinking about this for a while. Liesel, send me an email. I'd love to chat about that with you at least over email and see if I can come up with an idea or two for you. And then on top of that, in our workshop, we've if you've taken our online course around Facebook advertising, we've kind of changed some of the content a bit for the workshop. So we're actually going to spend some time, about an hour or so, walking through what leads to an effective ebook and an effective offer. I'm going to walk you through some different activities to help you sort of brainstorm, what content do I have? Of that content, what's going to be valuable for my ideal donor, and then how do you actually put an outline together based on that content and that merger of what's valuable and what you already have. So Lisa, again, we can have a quick conversation via email, but if you really want to dive deep, that workshop is going to be, I think, really helpful for you. CJ wants to know, do you calculate the ROI by using the average email value for your organization? CJ, in this case, when we're calculating ROI, we're looking at real dollars coming in compared to real dollars being spent on Facebook. So we're not exactly calculating an average. In some cases, if we're validating an experiment based on revenue, we might look at like revenue per visitor as a metric to measure the difference in revenue from version A to version B. But typically with these campaigns, you definitely want to see like real money in, real money out to determine your ROI, as opposed to just trying to average it out on a per email basis. Shirley has a question. I see the value of a free offer, but I'm totally stuck on what to offer. Charity is Kids Against Hunger Canada. What could be something free that relates to ending hunger? Again, Shirley, same response as to Lisa. I would really encourage you, you can send me an email. We can have a quick conversation that way. However, I would really recommend you jump into that workshop because we're going to spend some great time. I see Lisa says, I feel you, Shirley. We're going to spend some great time talking about that specifically and hopefully giving you some tangible ways to go find existing content you have and turn that into something of value. Just a few quick things just to sort of, jog your thinking a bit. If you have existing podcasts or you do like interviews with people, if you have existing videos that you're taking of, people that are affected by, or that are, that you have impacted through your cause or different things like that. If you have existing blog posts or you have articles, all those different things can be raw materials to repackage up into an ebook. So that might be a place to start, is just looking at, what do I have already that might just need to be converted into text if it's in audio form or video form. But again, we'll talk more about that in the workshop as well. Betsy says, we're a very small nonprofit that doesn't have the capacity to produce free ebooks. What else can we offer for free? Betsy, I would imagine that you do have the capacity, even if you don't have a lot of resources. There's so many different free tools out there that you can use. Canva is one of them for design. A lot of the ebooks we produce for, even just clients of ours that in many cases have significant resources are really just Word documents. We're taking a copy over here, we're putting it in a Word doc, we're using Word to add a nice little template to it, add some headers, add some footers, add some coloring and heading styles, and then slap a cover on it. You've got a PDF that somebody can download. So it doesn't necessarily have to take a ton of capacity or a ton of time or a ton of investment, like from real dollars financially, to create an ebook. So you likely do have the capacity to produce something like that. Question from Thomas, what happens if you place short copy and a link to a story? Thomas, that's a great way to drive traffic. But I would, if your goal is specifically to lead to more donations from this type of an ad campaign using this model, typically just getting a click to read a story on a page is not going to lead to more donations. You're likely going to get more traffic. You're likely going to get more clicks and more visibility, but you're likely going to see fewer people donate. Again, there's that curiosity factor where someone's interested and wants to learn more, but that doesn't ultimately lead to conversion. So maybe that's a step in terms of like trying to reach new audience to generate new traffic. Maybe you're advertising some type of really interesting story, and then you can retarget that traffic later with more of this type of model to lead to instant donations. But specifically, just trying to lead to donors, short copy to a story typically doesn't work. But again, it could be effective for audience building and trying to generate traffic. Let's see. Caio, I believe is how you pronounce this name. Oh, read it like Kyle from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Yes, okay. What are the best practices, how to run A/B tests on Facebook? That can be tricky. There is a built-in tool within Facebook ads where you can run A/B tests. Granted, sometimes it's hard to test the things that you want to test when you're just using their stock A/B testing tool. That is a great place to start, though. If you're just trying to test, two audiences or you're testing messaging, start with the A/B testing builder inside of Facebook. Oftentimes we might run these types of tests that are a bit more complicated that their A/B testing tool won't accommodate, or we'll really just have several different audience sets where we're testing different creatives within those audience sets to test them against each other. So there's different ways you can go, but again, starting with a built-in A/B test tool is probably the way to go. At least
Nathan, I've seen this question a few times, just in a few different ways from different
Sure.
people. But Jennifer says, is there an ideal starting ad spend? Is $100 per week for ads? Is that good? Do you have an example of something that you could start with?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to be in a different place with that. It kind of depends on your organization. I know that's kind of like a consulting answer is like, oh, it depends. It depends on where you're at. But it really does in some cases where, for some organizations, you might actually be willing to spend, say, like $50 to acquire a donor. Some might be looking at more like $20 to acquire a donor. And that range can vary significantly. I would say, I mean, spending $100 a week is a good starting place to start to see how your ads are performing and get some learnings. So yeah, I think you can start with that much. It would be really hard if you're starting off with just trying to spend like a couple bucks a day or something like that. You're not really going to get any significant traffic or significant volume. I think maybe even a better starting place would be like probably $500 for a week. If you can do that much, you're going to get enough volume coming through your advertising to start getting some interesting learnings. And showing it to enough people to get sort of reliable results and get a good benchmark for where your ads are performing. So $100 is probably enough to get there. More up to like 500 a month is probably more of a week is probably a more ideal starting place. But obviously your budgets are your budgets. Some are going to have a lot of resources to just jump right into this and spend a lot and learn a lot really fast. For some of you might have to start a little bit smaller, and that's okay. But again, definitely not like spending $10 a week or a couple bucks a day. That's probably not going to get you there. That $100 per week is probably a better starting point.
Cool.
Any other common questions you've seen come through before we shut things down?
I see one from Emily here that I think is interesting, and it's always a good, I don't know, I think it's something good to revisit when we have these webinars and stuff, but how sure are you that these learnings can be applied to other organizations?
How sure am I?
Yeah.
We currently work with about 40 different nonprofits, all in different verticals and different spaces. And we use this same type of model with every single one of them that we're running donor acquisition campaigns for. So I'm very confident in the model for sure. I think almost any nonprofit, honestly, we use the same type of model for our own marketing. And Next After is not a nonprofit. We're not trying to raise funds, but this idea of people going on Facebook are not necessarily looking to spend money and to give someone else money. Typically, you're going on Facebook again to like look at posts from your friends or from family members or random people you've met on the internet, or someone that you knew in high school like 20 years ago. You're seeing their posts and stuff. You're not going on there to go give somebody money. However, businesses and nonprofits get people to take these types of actions using a similar type of model, understanding that people are going on Facebook to get something back in return for themselves. Normally that is content. So we can kind of break the ice with this sort of like free content offer. Then what happens is once they've given you their email address, they're still getting something back in return. But now there's this feeling of gratitude that can kind of be pivoted into this act of generosity to give back to you. So we're sort of breaking the ice of that get something for me mentality and starting to shift it towards a can I give something back mentality. So that's why this model works across lots of different verticals. It's not specific to a cause, but the model is more how people interact with Facebook specifically.
Cool.
Does that help?
Yeah, I think that was a good answer. So, well, I appreciate you, Nathan, for taking the time today to go over this with everyone. And I appreciate all of you guys for joining us today. Sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions, but we're so grateful for you. So grateful for all of your awesome questions. So we'll be sending out the recording, the slides, all those different resources we shared with you all later this afternoon. And then if you guys have any questions or just need any support or anything we can do for you, just always shoot us an email. We're always here for you. So I think that's all.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is a blast. Again, I'd love to see you in that workshop next week. You can check out more information on your screen and hopefully spend a few hours with us talking more in depth about how to use Facebook to grow your fundraising. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you very soon. We'll see you next time.